to our pilot sled. 2-minute warning to our pilot sled. All right, our track is clear to start one for our first forerunner. Let it go, start one. There, coming down into the Devil's Highway. is clear. 2, start 1 for our second forerunner. Number 2 of our Mexican World Championship competition. He's into the double highway. Through the highway to Shady Hill. Now entering the labyrinth. Into Benham's Bend. Coming through the chicane. Now entering the arc. Crossing the finish line.
It's 25 to 1, reversal of 25 to 1. So your leader after run number 1, Francesco Friedrich from Germany. He's sitting in the number 1 spot with that brilliant time, 54.64. And then we go from 26 to 31. So reverse order by rank, 4 runs in this competition. And you'll have runs 1 and 2 tomorrow, runs 3 and 4. The time record is 496. 496. The fastest sled we watched was in the low teens. Track record 54.61. 54.61 is track record. And we have a top there today with 54.61. Set by Germany. Francesco Friedrich. So we're less than 5 minutes away from the first competitive sled.
Lake Placid, New York, upstate in the state. We are in Mount Van Hoevenberg at the Olympic Sliding Center, the venue for the 1932 and 1980 Winter Games. And this track opened in 2000 for the Goodwill Games, is the scene for the 2025 IBSF World Championships. Hello everybody, welcome back to our coverage of the opening day of bobsled action with the two-man competition. Monobob coming up this afternoon. And after the first of our 4 heats, there aren't too many surprises in the top 3. Greg Cackett, if you had to pick 3 sleds to be the fastest, you might have picked these ones.
Yeah, these guys have been flying all year. You know, they're the World Cup overall top 3s, and beg your pardon, no, sorry, Brad's up there. But I think, you know, Adam had a couple of spills in Skoda this year, which really affected his points tally. But Adam actually drove the best today, I would say, in the first heat. Storming starts from all 3 of them, separating from barely a hair's breadth, a 12, a 13 and a 14. Hansi and George, and look, see, Hansi was a lot less tidy down the bottom here. So Adam, you know, will be fancying jumping up here. Hansi's going to have to really keep his nose clean to hold Adam at bay and to chase the big man Friedrich currently at the top, who's just, I mean, this is Mr. Consistent, right? And what is really interesting is the starts. You know, so when we saw Schuller and Friedrich go out to a 5:13, well, we've got a 4:96 start record. You know, there's something not quite right in the speeds at the top, but only a few hundreds from the track record at the bottom. And even there, you can see it's loose, but sometimes loose is fast.
Yeah, loose is fast, and it's impossible to be clean down here. You can make fewer mistakes than your rivals, but you can't be mistake-free. 1600s cover the top 3. A 10th back Frank Del Duca for the USA. Mickey Vogt and Kim Jin-soo right behind. And a little further down the order, you'll see the USA's Chris Horn. Jeff Gadbois made it into the top 10 for the US on his home ice. Chris Horn was in 5th fastest when he crashed in the heart. So he's outside the top 20. He will go again. The sled is okay, the crew are okay, so Chris Horn and Josh Williamson will chase down a top 20 run. Adam Baird's the other sled that crashed will not go, so we're down to 31 starters. The top 25 from the first heat go in reverse order, and you can see Francesco Frigic with a hood on behind him, Alex Schuller. They'll go out 25th in this run, so very different ice potentially. Air temperature hovering around 0. Yesterday it was -6. Air temperature, the ice temperature -4. Yesterday again it was -6. And in training, well, you had one really cold fast day, didn't you? Yeah. And one sort of warm soft day. So everybody adapting to a third different set of conditions. As you can see, it's still winter outside.
Yeah, and but that wind picks up as well. You really feel it. You really feel these minus temperatures. But as you said, it's been a difficult prep for everybody because we were rapid on Monday in training, really slow on Wednesday, 3 seconds off the pace, and then we're quite fast again today. You know, for Friedrich to be 300s from the track record, it shows there is speed in the track. So
definitely,
hey, this makes for an exciting race to watch.
And the lower runners will get better ice this time. Francesco will go out 25th of our 31 sleds, so he won't have the best ice conditions. Be interesting to see where Chris Horn ends up. And again, no further action for Adam Baird and Ollie Butterworth. They're quite banged up after their crash. Second heat of the 2-man Bobsleigh World Championships in Lake Placid. Cyrus Gray, 25th after the first heat, with Kelly Uketcher and Pindu, his brakeman, behind him. Getting us back underway. All 4 heats count. There are no lets in this sport, so they need another good run to try and move into the top 20 after the 3rd heat and make the final run. Martin Haven and Greg Cackett watching the action trackside here in windy Lake Placid.
Yeah, and a 5:33 getaway for Cyrus there. They had a 29 in the first heat, so they dropped a few hundreds there. That's another experience thing, you know. You want to either maintain or go faster. And there is technically an argument as well that you should be going your fastest on your first push, so it's not too bad being slightly off the pace in the second. But Cyrus, again, we got a guy, a brakeman turned pilot, you know, getting more experience. A 4-heat World Championships is a huge thing for him, and taking this forward to his next Olympic Games and, you know, the rest of his career. But he's looking all right down here. Nice down the chicane.
A little wild in the labyrinth, but cleans the chicane through Benham's Bend. And then through the heart, 17, 18 and 19, the final corner. Comes across the line. And a 56.86, 56.49 in the first heat.
Coach is looking happy with that. Justin Cripps there, Olympic champion, applauding his new young protege. Good job, Cyrus.
Yeah, that Olympic finale in 2018, Friedrich went first because he tied Cripps' time in the 3rd heat, and Cripps was last to go. And as he came across the line, he saw one finger up from his coach. Couldn't understand why the Germans were going mad and swamping him as he got to the line, because it was a tie for gold.
No, I remember it well. It was great.
Yeah. Well, Cyrus Gray, again, strong brakeman, just beginning his driving career, and that's not a bad-looking run.
And it's great to watch these guys at these stages because they're all on such different trajectories. You'll get people who pick up the driving skills really quick, really talented, really quickly, and guys who just take that little bit longer and take, it might be a few seasons, then suddenly, bang, they get it. And
Next up,
big thing.
for Israel, Adam Edelman and Regnars Kirievs. Regnars started his career in the Latvian program and then found Adam, and they're now sliding together for Israel. Adam, a former World Championship and Olympic competitor in skeleton for Israel.
Yeah, so he's been really developing over the last couple of years as a bobsleigh pilot. Adam
lives here in the US, and so he knows these tracks well. He's raced in the North America's Cup predominantly. There are 2 junior, in fact now 3 junior tiers of sliding. North America's Cup, the 3 tracks here in US and Canada, in the Europe Cup and in the Asia Cup as well.
It's a little bouncy for the Devil's Highway, but it looks pretty clean. Some nice square transitions coming off the corners nicely. He's got Rudy Rinaldi, former Monogas pilot, looking after him at the moment. And as we said earlier in the early transmission, you know, Rudy coming from a relatively smaller program, he can relate. Hey, he's shooting this straight. This is good.
Yeah, despite the gust of wind blowing snow through, he was 600s up. He's dropped to 700s back, and now
he's good.
Just hangs on to that. 400s in front. Is he in front of the line? No, that
just killed him.
Save.
Yeah. That just killed him at the bottom there. You know, he just little rough, little wild at the bottom.
Had to Robin Hood it off to save the sled. That's where you're really ripping on the steering just to get it off the corner before it rolls off. And when they're doing 80 miles an hour plus down at the bottom there.
Yeah, but I think
look at the wind blowing the snow through there.
Tons of positives for Adam there.
Yeah.
He'll see the mistakes at the bottom. That's cool. All right, well, we'll try and fix them for the next one. But, you know, he gained on Cyrus. He was up in the greens, and then it was just a little wild at the bottom where he went back into the reds and everything. So, a lot of positives.
Just a little late coming down into the labyrinth. And again, once you come out of the chicane and out of Benham's Bend, you've really got to be on the money. You're doing 80 miles an hour there. You can't make mistakes. Now then, Jamaica being represented in the World Championships for the first time in a long while. This is Shane Pitter and Tyreek Buckner, his brakeman, and making their first televised appearance. Again, they've learned their craft here in North America, so if you're going to start somewhere in the big leagues, do it on a track where you've got at least some experience. 6 of the drivers' 12 races have been on this track. His brakeman Tyreek.
Oh, he's had a little spill get in.
That happens even to the best. 5:25, 5:24 in the first heat.
He managed that really well.
Didn't panic.
Nice out of 2 as well. Takes the tap. Relatively square. You can see those little check steers. And then down into Devil's Highway. So I was hoping that someone might have said to them, run it just a bit further, because they're 24 in the first heat. They got in quite early. And I feel like they could have shaved a few more hundreds off, but they're getting good speeds here. These are 2 sub-11-second 100-metre sprinters, so there is speed in the legs in this team. And I tell you what, there's skill in the hands.
It's a good-looking run. It is a good-looking run. This is not... You're not going to say, oh, yeah, this is his first run. It's really nice run. Again, he's had 6 races here, so 3 North America's Cup weekends. So he's probably got 40, 50 runs down the track.
Well, I'll tell you what, he was
the line 56.38. That's a good run.
He was 2 or 3 tenths up on Sai, I think, from the first heat, and he's just trebled that, I think, going into.
That is a good run.
Maths, but
now he was 23rd. I'd be surprised if he's not in the top 20 overnight.
Yeah, I think he might.
That's it was a nice looking run. Okay, so what happens at the start? Just
goes to low.
Doesn't get his feet into the cow.
Just a little bit of inexperience, but I tell you what, managing. What's in the sled? What's in the track there? Oh, it's just a wrapper.
Yeah.
Okay. Thought it was a visor. Yeah, a good run on the way down and everything. But I tell you what, like you said, we've seen more experienced athletes mess up a pilot load, and he managed it brilliantly.
Yeah, it happens. You know, you're sprinting on ice downhill and vaulting into the sled. It's not a big gap. Now then, another brakeman turned driver for Italy, Alex Vergine, with Riccardo Ragazzi behind him. These guys, 8th fastest start in the huge field of 32 sleds. So these boys have really got a getaway. And once Alex learns to carry that pressure speed a little further down the track, he's going to be dangerous. If you can start that fast, then all Simone Bertazzo in the background has to do is teach him not to hit so many things on the way down.
Exactly. And you know what? From what we're seeing today, we've got low teens, seems to be the standard for the push. Mid-teens is top class, high teens is really, really good. Low 20s, you're in the mix. And we've got a 21s, the first push these guys pushed.
Don Haas is listening to his radio in the background. The boys are getting their clothes on.
Oh, no, we're back in.
Somebody's rescuing that rapper out of the chicane. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. Was that my fault?
Track work. No. It's blown in by the wind, and a track worker has gone to rescue it. And that's why the little delay was. You could see them sort of standing around and looking around, which is not normally how you start a bobsleigh race.
Right, so 5:21 in the first heat. Let's see what they've got in the second heat here. You want to...
It's the teens.
Boys can get down into the teens.
Could do. I'm sure they'll be eager to. Probably going to be a 22, 23, 20.
Hey, it's still taking 100th off in the second push. Like, you're giving everything you've got in these starts. If you take 100th off in your second push, you're doing a great job. That's finding that little bit more.
You can see how windy it is outside. We've had a bit of sun shining on, a little bit of dry snow being blown around. It's very gusty. Some of that is coming into the track. Oh, little wobble.
Into the Devil's Highway here. And again, as we said, sometimes it's tough to tell whether or not it's rough, because it's just rough through there no matter what. Nicely through the labyrinth. He'll be coming into 13 and 14 now. See how he goes through the chicane. Can he shoot this? I tell you what, that's not bad at all.
Good speed as well. He's not far ahead of Shane Pitter, but he's got a tiny lead into the... And he's building on that. That's the speed out of the chicane.
Clean enough down through the heart. He's going to have a little bit through here. 400s.
Well, 300s on that run. Quicker than the Jamaicans, so the 100th advantage from the first heat now opened up to 400s. Probably worth mentioning, as Lee Johnson reminds me, morning Lee, that afternoon Lee, that the Jamaican coach is Todd Hayes, multiple US world and Olympic medalist who lives here in Lake Placid and obviously knows the track pretty well. But for Alex, that's a really, really good run.
Definitely. I think you can be really pleased with that. You know,
compared how many runs he's got down here to compare to how many the Jamaican driver has, and they're at a similar sort of stage. Yeah.
I remember I spoke to Alex last week saying, oh, so are you driving here? Are you pushing here? And he was like, both. But when he said he was driving, it was a little nervous laugh as well. Nobody takes this place for granted.
For Europeans, this place and Whistler, they're tighten the seatbelts.
Oh, God, yeah.
Now then, Edson Bindelati and Edson Martins for Brazil. The veteran duo, 45-year-old driver, 35-year-old brakeman. I'm doing him this service. But starting 5:32 now, they had a 29 in the first heat. It's going to be interesting to see how their teammates, who are 2 decades younger, respond in their second start.
Absolutely, and only a 200th advantage on Alex from the first heat, so we'll see how well Alex's start and drive acquitted him here, because Edson knows this track so well.
Well, the last 3 sleds, including Edson, covered by just 300ths of a second after the first heat, and the next one's only 500ths ahead as well. So a tiny little group, 600ths back. He was a 10th behind at the start. He's bringing it back.
Yeah.
Good chicane, really good chicane.
That might do enough for him.
Yeah, that should see him into the green as he comes down into the heart. He's dead level. If he keeps it on 4 runners, he has the lead at the line. Unless it's a dead heat. It is a dead heat.
I still find that incredible.
So many dead heats on this track.
It's ridiculous, but to have 2 sleds, and if you had them shadowed next to each other,
totally
all the way
different
down,
runs.
But coming through absolutely nailed on together, like, it's wild.
100%. Different starts, different drivers, different sleds, different weights, different experience, and yet they're inseparable to the 100th of a second at the bottom. Insane.
But you know what? Great drive from Edson there, because he said he gave away a few hundredths on the start, and certainly gave away 1300ths to Alex in the push, you know, so absolutely nailed down through the chicane here.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Great.
Needs more green, gold and blue on the sled, but yeah, absolutely. Absolutely excellent stuff. Okay, so just 500s ahead of that little clump is our next slider, and you can see Matej Behenek and Michal Dobesh of the Czech Republic, coached by Dominik Dvorak.
Yeah, so Matej having a bit of a better run of it than his teammate Joachim from the first heat. and a 33 getaway. So it's a 26th fastest push, and the big man Dobers on the back there will be wanting to bring that down. Come on.
He didn't get in quick, did he? 5.30, so opens up another couple of hundreds over the current joint leaders, Edson Bindelati and Alex Virginer.
He's nicely round 2. That's where we said that's a real speed killer if you're getting that wrong from your start velocity. So he's managed that really well. And into 5 and 6 here, into the Devil's Highway. Here's the bouncy part. Again, you see when that transition's so rough, there's that articulation ripping backwards and forwards.
Those late flops really bouncing the crew around. Coming down out of 13 into 14, Benham's Bend, and then down through the chicane.
Not too bad, keeping it relatively square. But he doesn't have the speed to take it. He's going to drop back.
1500s back, 1700s back. He's going to drop 3 spots to 4th at the line. Across the line, 1600s back, so 56.68.
Jamaica, Italy and Brazil march forward.
And that is so much the nature of this track. Just a tiny little error here or there. Isn't hundreds, we're talking tenths.
Yeah,
or 20ths, or you know, thirds of a second with a mistake rather than the odd 100th. It really does. This is almost like sort of car racing in Formula 1 in Monaco. Any mistake is going to really hurt.
Yeah, and we predicted this, right? You know, there's going to be a lot of chopping and changing outside of that top 3. So all the way down, we've got races within races, and even down at this part between 25 to 20, you know, they're battling to get that top 20 spot, so they can get that 4th heat.
And that'll be, end of heat 3. Only the fast 20 go through into the final run. Which is a bit tough on everybody else who's come here, but I can remember doing World Championships where we're interviewing Christoph Langen after he's presented with the award, and there are still sleds coming down in the background. So it was, I mean, they never got on TV in their 4th run anyway. All right, here we go. Li Chunjian and Ye Jilong for China, and they are in 19th position. And again, another little knot of 3 sleds here, covered by just a 10th of a second.
Yeah, a low 20s push. In the first heat, it's 23. They're at 25 here, so they've dropped 200s off the start there, which isn't the world's worst thing. But if Lee can hold on to that velocity, he does. Out of 2, we'll take the tap from 3 to 4. That's quite nicely managed as well.
The start's pretty well closed, but you can see that the air temperature is sort of not much above 0. I wonder if the frost is starting to form on the start. The refrigeration keeping the ice hard. Second best speed, still 1500s up on our joint leaders.
Yeah, he's handling this all pretty well then. Yeah, I remember when I first came here, Martin, actually with, speaking of Lee Johnston, he took us up on our first track, and I remember looking through that section through the labyrinth and thinking, how the hell are we going to format down here?
Well, I mean, and next week we're going to find out just how tough it is, because you're putting the nose of the sled up onto a corner while the back of the sled is still coming off the last one. So, yeah.
It's a rough ride. About 2/10 for Lee there between him and Edson.
He didn't add much to the run. 56.34. Edson was only 300 slower. Alex Virginer was only 100 slower. So it's still a really tight group.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from those guys.
You know, nothing between the 300s between those 3 sleds. That's absolutely nothing in terms of their second run. So, again, although he's got a 2100s advantage at the moment over Bindelati and Virginer, there's no guarantee that that will exist after the 3rd heat tomorrow morning. So 2 heats today, 2 heats tomorrow to decide the medals. But he does keep himself in the top 20, at least for the moment. So 18th after the first heat. That I thought was a pretty impressive run for young Jakob Mandelbaum. I mean, you can see from his headshot there, he really is a young slider. Daniel Birchler behind him. These 2 Austrians, I think they've got plenty of potential. 26-year-old driver, just 23, the brakeman.
That's great. And then, you know, and a 5:28 push in the first heat. So if we can keep this in the 20s, lads, or mid-20s, that would be a lovely shove for this second heat.
And yelling in the background, Sasha Stepan, who'll be on the 4-man over the weekend. Next weekend, 5:28.
Yeah, good getaway for the boys there. Nicely round 2, so he'll hold on to that start velocity. Yeah, skid going into 4.
Really big skid, and that's going to see him pushed away a little in 5 and sideways into the top of the Devil's Highway.
I think that's going to really damage his speed unless he keeps this really clean through the chicane.
6th best speed. He's only the 8th sled on ice. So second slowest so far. 200s back. He was only 500s up on Lee Chun-jan.
Go. So square taps. So it's not the world's worst.
Certainly not a disaster.
Oh, he's taking that early tap. He's got, yeah. Same as that early tap.
Yeah.
Pushed him across, rolled inside. So hopefully they get down to that set nice and quick.
Does get to the line. Yeah, I have to say, the track workers have been so on it.
Yeah.
All through training.
Well,
you know, and it's bodies along the track. You know, it's workers at distances along the track so they can all leap in and converge on the sled. However early or late it crashes, they'll get it.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. Speaking of four-man as well, we did four-man in the training week last week. That was a bumpy ride. The medics just came down just to check on if we got down fine, but they still came down and said, is everyone all right?
Yeah.
Because we all looked a bit gooey on the camera, apparently. So that big hit as well. The brakeman nearly came out the sled from the hit, and then here you see gravity just pushes them back up, and then that's too much.
Yeah.
And they roll it. Oh, another nasty knock.
Yeah, big hit on the head for Jakob Mandelbauer. Well, they do get a time as they cross the finish line. They're both in the sled. And if the brakeman gets spat out, to add insult to injury, you get disqualified because you haven't got the right number of crew across the line, which I always think is a little bit harsh. It's not like anybody got out to make the sled lighter.
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
But that's the way it is. That's the way it is. So they are down, and again, a 5-minute track hold ahead of Boris Van and Monaco. Boris looked pretty disappointed with his run, didn't he, to say the very least. 17th place, he will have been expecting to be in the top 10.
Yeah,
it was just not a good run.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a mixed season for Boris. It's kind of been a bit of a theme. You know, he hasn't had Antoine all year. Antoine's had injury problems, so he's not had as much of a shove in his two-man as he would like. You know, after some great results last year, and he's a talent. Like he's a brakeman who's gone into this front seat, who's definitely got a feel for driving. I say it to him all the time. He comes into the changing room and he's like shaking his head. I'm like, Boris, like you're good. You're going to be fine. I don't know. You know, he
does doubt himself a lot, I think. Yeah.
He's sometimes a little harsher on himself than he should be. Like he's doing fantastically well, and sometimes you have these. You know, we had it last year. If you have a ton of injuries, you put up to a development year. You know, you kind of like you test other things, you work other things out, and he's still learning how to drive. He's still learning this sport, so these are all massive for him. All massive experiences.
Lots of friends and family here. I mean, in the skeleton races over the last couple of days, such a rowdy rabble down there cheering on all of
that's great to hear.
And actually, one of the great things, I mean, you know, you've been around all the bobsled tracks, and so you know that when you come into the finish in Koenigsee, or you come into the finish in Winterberg or Altenberg, they cheer everybody.
Yeah.
It's not just, silence and then hooray for the Germans. They absolutely cheer everybody. It's exactly the same here. Yes, there's a bit more noise for the US sleds, but the people in Lake Placid, you know, they know their history. They know these athletes. They get recognised in town. That doesn't happen in a lot of places.
No, for sure. And as I said earlier, you know, they're so friendly with us. And it's, you know, we come down the track in Winterberg. People do expect there's just going to be the Germans cheering. We get out the sled and you roar, you shout. They totally feed off it. They all want to get involved.
Yeah.
It's an exciting adrenaline-fueled sport. You want everyone to do well. You want everyone to get down safe.
Yeah.
And it's just racing. It's just pure racing.
And it is much less tribal than lots of other sports as well. Everybody loves bobsled, and that's the common bond. You know, these people that you're looking at here, wherever they've come from, whatever their background, they've got more in common with the people that they're stood beside that they've never met in their lives than they have with their neighbours, because they've got this one little passionate bond. And it's the same in the dressing room. Whatever background, language, height, weight, size, colour you are, you've got that passion in common. And there you go, classic example. Lee on the left and Yi on the right, our current leaders.
And everyone's got the same sense of humour as well. Because we all sit there going like, oh, another year. What are we still doing here? Why are we all still in the cold, getting smashed up, getting concussed, getting compressed by G-forces? And then the second I felt it this year with injuries, the second it was potentially taken away from me, I was like, I want it back. I want to come back. I don't want it to be over yet.
Everybody's desperate for the season to end, and then after 2 weeks, they're desperate for it to start again.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe not 2 weeks, but yeah, midway through the summer. Okay, when we on ice, because it's that buzz of competition. And it's that camaraderie as well. I always say that this is not motor racing. Nobody can have you off into the gravel trap. Nobody can block you. Nobody can slow you down or be in the way of your pit stop. Nobody can hold you up. It is you, the track, and the clock. And so everybody is in the same team. Everybody's in the same boat. Nobody messes up your run except for you.
Yeah, and you know
nothing anybody else can do can affect your run unless you let it. So,
absolutely.
So it is such. I mean, it really is a bit like alpine skiing. You know, it is a pure sport. It is just you against the stopwatch, and whoever does the job best against the clock ends up with the medal.
Definitely, and you know what? It's the lay person outside of the sport who doesn't fully understand either that you are a runaway freight train when you're in that thing. People used to ask me, like, oh, how do you communicate with the pilot, like when you're braking? Do you have a headset? And they say, right, brake a little into this corner. Oh, I'm not braking into corners.
No.
Like, you are in free fall until the end. Exactly. That's when you brake if you're not upside down.
Runaway freight train, I'm stealing that. But that's exactly what it is, you know. You do everything you can not to slow the sled down.
Yeah.
Brakes are just for not crashing at the end.
And it's, you know, in training with you know, you're sort of padded up and it's cold and you're kind of getting through the training runs, and then race day it's what Lycra, get as you know, as unsafe as possible, and you're in the back of the sled willing it on, going faster, faster, faster. You know, in training you're doing the opposite, a little slower. In training I do consider feathering the brakes.
Well, in the old days they used to have to brake on, even in St. Moritz, you'd have a big brake before Horseshoe and you just go straight off the top.
Oh really?
Oh yeah. Oh, yes, you missed having those conversations in a bar with Goma. Oh, Cervina boy, that was a track, let me tell you. Oh, yes. And this place as well, the 1980 track that is still alongside us here. Absolutely brutal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know,
I've seen some old footage.
Yeah, yeah. You know, most of the walls here are made of concrete and they're nice and stuff. The metal plate on the banking of the corners was painted white because when there was no ice, it still looked like there was.
Yeah, no thanks.
and they'd be giving award ceremonies, and here to collect the gold medal on behalf of the driver who's in hospital is so-and-so, and it was like, you know, people hobbling up to get medals. It was brutal.
Oh, it's great for the story.
Brutal. So here we go, getting our second heat of the two-man bobsleigh back underway in Lake Placid with Monaco's Boris Vain and Antoine Rieu. After a crash for Jakob Mandelbauer down in the heart, our third crash of the race so far. So the crew seem to be okay and may well go again tomorrow. So Boris Vain, Antoine Rieu, 17th place after the first of our heats, and just 1/10 in hand over our current leader, Li Chunjian of China.
Yeah, the 31 getaway in the first heat. We want to see them get under the third. There we go, 27. That's more like it, boys. Much better start. They taking 500ths off that, 400ths off that. Apologise for my maths.
Well, now,
brilliant. Much better velocity as well. So Boris.
Well, bobsleigh maths, if you're a 10th faster at the top, you should be 3/10 faster at the bottom. I've now been criticised for my Welsh accent by Lee Johnson, a Yorkshireman criticising my Welsh.
He's come out of the Devil's Highway well, around Shady 2, and coming into the Labyrinth. It's all looking quite quiet.
Now he's back to a 10th ahead of Lee, so he's got his first heat lead back. Does he extend it? Yes, he does. Third best speed. And actually, Edson Bindalati has been the fastest down the track, apart from the start clock, all the way down. So Edson's still with the fastest run of the second heat so far, and across the line, nearly trebled that advantage, 56.15.
Much better for
that is a really good run.
So a real team effort there. You know, much better in the start, much better in the drive. I think Boris. This is the difficult thing with bobsleigh as well. If you do make a mistake in the first heat, whatever, and you do better in the second, it's almost okay, great. I overcame that. I made that better, but it's almost like, funny, I'd not got it wrong in the first heat.
Well, you see, yeah, but at least you get a second and a third and a fourth heat to improve on that. If it was a one-hit wonder, boom, gone.
Well, that's when we talk about consistency, right? Yeah. So this is what Boris is learning, and yeah, again, I really think Boris is going to be one to watch over these next couple of years, particularly if they get that start back up again, because a couple of years ago, him and Antoine were like top 2, top 3
and heading
starters.
towards a games in France in 2030.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's the golden ticket. Now then, for Canada, Pat Norton and Shaq Murray-Lawrence in 15th place, the second of our Canadian crews. Had a better result last time out in Winterberg than teammate Taylor Austin.
All right.
5:26, good starting.
Now we're cooking, so that's another 31 down to a 26, so similar to Boris there. Taking it a touch faster, but very, very similar start profile there.
They've had a bit of a word with themselves, haven't they?
They have, yeah. Either that or they've swept the start block. Something's changed. The shot looked pretty intense behind the slip there.
Nice looking run so far.
Good.
1600s up
speed.
on Boris Van. 900s from the first heat. Boris had a clean run. A little late, but he handles it well.
So here we go through the chicane, so out of 14.
Fourth best speed. Actually, Boris was the fastest exiting the chicane.
He was, he's gone back a little bit here. Pat.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
1900s, holding on to it. Well, it's what you do below that speed crop that makes the difference. 56.08. So we are getting quicker. Don't forget, of course, we're going in reverse order of the first heat performance. So each of the sleds up to Francesco Friedrich, in theory, should be quicker than the ones that have gone. But because not everybody had the cleanest run, that's not always the way. But Pat Norton buzzing with that. You saw his family down there wearing the Norton T-shirts. And actually showing them in this weather, so, you know, kudos. Because it's not T-shirt weather. This is not San Moritz, sun's out, guns out.
No, absolutely not. But that's, yeah, from a 900s advantage in the first heat, they've opened that up to 16. So.
And a nice chicane. Just gets a little drift coming down of the chicane down into 17. But nice stuff.
Yeah, I think it's where you see them, where they keep it relatively square. You don't see the back end really kicking out.
Yeah.
It's obviously just enough to maintain that velocity.
Happy with that. So Boris Vaar and Pat Norton, first and second. Lee Chun-Jan moved ahead of Jakob Mandelbauer after Mandelbauer's crash. So he stays firmly in a top 20 spot. Now, the second of our Chinese sliders, Sun Kai-chi, with Chen Heng behind him. Chen pushed for Lee in last year's World Champs. And as they have done over the last couple of seasons, swapping the brakemen around just to try and see which works best.
25, so they take 100th off their first start from a 5:26 to a 5:25, so good job by the brakeman there.
So they were absolutely tied to the 100 with Pat Norton, so he has a 100 advantage from the start, hence the green numbers. If they go red, and you see a little digit on the side, on the right-hand side, then that will be what position they're dropping back to. But he's got best speed so far.
Yeah, and you could see that number one speed. He carried that from the start because he was really nice round 2, really nice round 3. He kept the sled square, didn't set into a skid, maintained the velocity. And let's see if he can do the same now.
Pretty clean, but the gap has come right back down and gets a double tap in the chicane. 6th best speed coming into the heart. He's going to drop back behind Norton. Does he drop behind Boris Van as well? Is he going to be second or third at the line? It is second, so halfway through. Pat Norton and Shaq Murray-Lawrence there. Delighted with that. Boom, picked up for one. I think that might not be the only one either.
That's it. One of the highlights for the athletes as well in the sport, getting time in the coach in the leaders box.
Yep. Well, they were tied with Sun after the first heat. They came down 700s faster. It was all going well down the Devil's Highway, and then below Shady started to come a bit unravelled.
Yeah, I think just a few mistakes on his way out through, I think, sort of through 7, 8, and 9 there, and then.
Yeah, got that double hit in the chicane.
Yeah, ran him offline a little bit, and again at this state, you know, when you're in a dead heat, to begin with, any little things like that are just.
Well, to put it into context, the gap between them, 700ths of a second. That's what it takes to blink your eye. It's so
It's such fine margins.
And we talk about it like it's a yawning chasm. Really. Timo Rona and Greg Jones next. Now, these guys had getting on just over under 1500ths of a second over Pat Norton and Sun Kai-chi.
And again, and I'll say it for the rest of the season, Greg Jones, fantastic shape this year. Brilliant pushing, 5:23. That's another great start. So they've equalled their start from the first heat, which is good.
Yep. No drop-off in performance. So 1800s up. They've just outstarted Pat Norton a little and added to that first heat advantage, but a little rocky out of 3.
He also was a little late off 2 as well, which may be enough to keep him ahead of Pat, but it'll be the ones coming after.
Speed coming down. Not as quick as we've seen. Still 1500s up. That's his first heat advantage, but only the 7th best speed. Norton was quickest.
Few bumps and taps through the labyrinth. He's
Ooh. Son of Swiss sliding legend of the early 90s, Marcel Rohner, 1200s up. It's not going to be much quicker than Pat Norton to the line. 56.08. Pat Norton came down 56.08. So stasis between the two of them. His first heat advantage of 1500s over Norton remains at 1500s.
Yeah, not a bad job from Timo there. And it was a 10th rank push in the first heat, so we'll see how that stacks up in the second. So, again, good team effort from the boys.
Yeah. Started 300s quicker than Pat Norton and found nothing extra on the track.
So you see how just that little lateness off 2 there just kept the sled in a slight skid. And
Giving away speed in the slow corners costs you much more than speed given away in the fast corners because there's much less of it.
Well, that's why we say why Winterberg is so tricky to drive. You know, before corner 9, it's relatively flat. You know, so if you give anything away, you're not getting it back.
Yep.
So
here at least it does pick up speed, and the speeds are high, and there are lots of corners that others might make mistakes in. But you don't want to give it away before corner 4. Next up, Patrick Baumgartner and Rob Masia for Italy. 16th fastest start, 13th at the bottom of the track. So let's see if they can get it down more to 5:25, 5:26.
yeah, and Robert will be really gunning for that. This is a strong, very proud athlete. The size of the man. 26, there we go. Good job, man. 200s off from the first push.
Yep. Improving your start, he will have been really frustrated by that.
Oh, there's that skid again. So we'll just watch how Patrick maintains his speed here.
Just carrying it a little too late into 2. Yeah, he's dropped back a fraction. Well, he only had 100th in hand over Timo Rohner, so not much to play with.
No, but he looks like he might be driving this back. He's pulled it back to 100th.
Well, Rohner didn't have a great chicane either, so if he's clean below Shady, if he gets a good run through the chicane, not bad at all.
Oh, it's tight though, still at 100th.
Yeah.
Neck and neck here.
Could be another dead heat. Let's see if he comes to the line in front or behind. Hard to tell
Just
here.
not enough. 600s
back. All right, and that's just ahead. Yeah, just ahead of Pat Norton by 700ths of a second. 900ths of a second. 56.16, so he lost 800ths on that run to Timo Rohner, and that means he ends up not 200ths in front, but 600ths behind.
He knows, he'll know. Patrick is such a good driver, he'll know those tiny little mistakes. Those tiny little mistakes. So we'll see him out of 2 here. Just flops off a little late. There's the skid, and that's the start of velocity down the toilet, as Coach Graham Richardson assured me before I came on air. So it's and we're really seeing that, you know, when they're that close, every little bit counts, and Patrick will be really frustrated he didn't manage that better. Ooh, Robert popped up a bit there.
Yeah, not happy with that. And they can see on the little screen there the entire run, so yeah, it's all exposed for them. Jakubs Kalender and Mats Miknis of Latvia, a second off the lead, and we're now verging into the bottom edges of the top 10. They were 12th after the first heat, but again in this big bunch of sleds from Timo Rohner in 14th place down to kind of 8th place, Mihai Tentea, where there's barely a few hundreds.
There it is, 19. So 21 in the first heat. I was fancying them to take that down in the second one. I might be wrong, but in the first heat it looked like the timing was slightly off on the hit. And when you've got a powerhouse like Miknis on the back, sometimes it doesn't even matter, because they'll still get after it. But a 19's a good getaway for these boys. Yeah. Jakub's still learning his craft. Mattis, the consummate professional and experienced athlete on the back. So 1200's up there, he's doing all right.
Building his advantage, going quicker than the last couple too. Was a little late, but didn't flop too badly. And again, you quite often see a flop there. Down through the chicane, needs this to be pretty clean, little skiddy, still 5th best speed, still holding his advantage.
You just see the next clock says dropping slowly, but he should have enough in the tank here.
Yeah.
Maybe down to 6 or 7.
Across the line, 800. Like Timo Rohner on the left, Greg Jones on the right-hand side. I'd love to know, I must go back and have a little look at what kind of speeds Greg Jones is getting out of sleds at the moment. So I don't know if he's just training or whether he's doing Europe Cup races. He's doing Europe Cup occasion, a couple of occasions, but yeah, see where he's going to be in the next couple of years compared to Timo.
Yeah, for sure. But you got, but even with pilots like Timo, even they haven't always had the start
push and the kit, and yeah.
But
definitely,
really good, talented driver.
Before this season, we only saw Timo Werner a couple of times, maybe once or maybe twice a season when somebody was injured or taking time out to train up for the Worlds. But I think he's really come alive this year. And Jacobs, yeah, he should be top 10. Mind you, there are 20 sleds that should be top 10 at least. And here's another one of them on this ice. Taylor Austin with Mike Evelyn behind him. They started 26 fastest with a 5:33. Drove themselves into 11th place, 100th out of the top 10.
Yes, they did it. Well done. Got it under the 30s. Good getaway there for Big Mike. As we said in the first heat, phenomenal athlete, Calgary Ice House record holder. I'll keep saying that every time I'm on air because he needs to get the credit for that. And sometimes this season's been frustrated. He's not transferred that solo push to the ice as much as he wanted to be able to do it, and but he's a real smart, very self-aware athlete, so he's really working hard to make sure he can do that, especially as we approach the Olympics.
Taylor Austin is doing what you're supposed to do in a bobsleigh. He is letting it fly.
Yeah.
It doesn't look tidy, but the speeds are great. Third best speed, fastest speed, now third best speed again. Again, he's doing what Chris Horn did, absolutely hanging it out, doing the least humanly possible. Comes across the line, 300s back, 56.09. Justin Cripps on the right, Lyndon Rush in the white beanie there watching the action.
Yeah, it'd be frustrating to just drop behind there, but there was some real flying moments there.
He was only 100 ahead of Jacobs Calendar after the first heat.
When you look at the start deficit as well, there's a
10th back at the start, should be 3 10ths back, not a few hundreds, not 300s. Yeah.
So he just gets off a little late, but he's got enough time to then get onto that. So the other lads who have been crashing there, it's where they're just off too late, where they roll in, but he's had enough to carry that round.
Yeah.
So
2 good runs.
Yeah.
That he is absolutely knocking on the door of the top 10. And in 10th place, the last of our starters, Jeff Gabois with Bryce Cheek behind him. Bryce's first race in the top level, has not started a World Cup race, has not started the World Championships either. Jeff Gabois grew up at this track.
And you know what?
And it shows, doesn't it?
And then massive respect to Bryce in the first push, a 5:23, 10th ranked push. And low 20s, as we said, is in the mix with the big boys and everything. So getting that, pushing Jeff out to that in a two-man is a hell of a return. And Jeff just drove phenomenally. So I'm going to be really fascinated to see if Jeff can creep further into the top 10.
And he had the least decent ice of the entire field.
Of course,
it will be slightly better compared to the front runners here. 10th best start, 10th at the bottom in the first heat, a 5:24 right in there swinging as well. That's excellent stuff from Bryce Cheek.
Now the good getaway, only 100s drop. There's no disgrace there. He's going to massively help Jeff with the velocity. We're seeing the numbers going green now. Jeff keeps this clean.
He had 700s over current leader Jacobs Calendar, and again he's been pretty wild and loosey-goosey, and the speed is there, second fastest.
Taps relatively nicely through the labyrinth, so he comes down through the chicane. He's up to 1600s already.
Little skid, fourth best speed, something flying off there. Whoa, and again, very wild down in the heart. Does it keep the speed alive? He's gone from 200s to 2500s up. That's a great drive from Jeff Gabois.
Yeah, man, from 700s to quarter of a second. Great job, yeah, he's happy with that.
Yes, he should be, and he's happy with his brakeman as well. Bryce Cheek, well, welcome to the big time. That's a really good day one for Jeff Gabois and Bryce Cheek of the USA. They seal a top 10 position overnight. I don't know what he expected, what he hoped for, starting 32nd, but that's a solid day's work at the office.
Oh, God. I think anyone who's driving back, you fancy a German from 32nd to come into the top 10. That's a hell of a result. So, great result. Great driving, Jeff. on home ice as well. It's the place to do it, right?
It is the place to do it.
Here we go.
So now then, Jeff Gobbois, 93 hundredths off the lead, 700ths ahead of him is Brad Hall with Taylor Lawrence. They started 5:19 in the first heat, 7th best start, 9th at the bottom.
Down, 5:22. Now, I was just about to say, the wind at the top there looked like it was blowing all sorts into the track. I wonder if that would actually have affected the
It probably is affecting the starts, because anything that's not helping you go forward is definitely not helping you go forward. But the real deficit was Brad just did not have a tidy drive. It was one of those training runs that occasionally creeps into a race. This is looking an awful lot tidier.
Yeah, it's much better. He wasn't great out of 2 and 3 at the top, actually, but he was really nice with the Devil's Highway.
Best speed of all. This is quicker than local driver Jeff Gobbois, who grew up on this track. 900s, the gap's halved from 16 to 900s, and only the 13th best speed. The speed has gone away down at the bottom. He's going to drop behind Gobbois. It's not going to happen for him. Jeff was quick at the bottom. Oh, 400s. He somehow hangs on.
Yeah, he'll still be really frustrated with that. I think I'm convinced at the start that there was all sorts of stuff being blown across there. I really think that would have affected that. But it didn't look like he managed. Again, he'll tell me to shut up later. But it didn't look like he managed it that well round 2 and 3. Now, if you look at the,
but you can see all the snow in the air being blown around.
You can see the white in the grooves.
Yeah,
and that's normally the telltale sign if it's not clear.
Big T wriggling into corner 1.
Yeah, because these guys the boys are in shape. But Taylor, popped out a 175 kilo power clean the other day. These are guys who are ready to push and ready to push fast. So I think there's a few other things going on here, but a better drive from Brad.
Not my day. Not my day.
Oh, there you go. Not my day.
And he's right. There were more mistakes than we're used to seeing him make. He's not been on the podium at half the races this season by accident.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, all right, into the top 8 now, and Mihai Tentia. The next 2 sleds, 8th and 7th, off the 22nd and the 28th start. So Mihai, as so often is the case, really out driving his start.
Yeah, and 31, getaway in the first 27s. They've dropped it. These lads who are pushing in the 30s in the first heat are just going the other way. Yeah. They're dropping and doing their job really, really well.
6th best velocity off the 11th fastest start, and that tells you something about how they get in the sled.
Yeah, absolutely.
3rd best speed off the 11th fastest start. Now, he was losing ground to Brad Hall because of Brad and Big T having a much quicker getaway, but he's just about stopped that now. Can he turn it round? Can he hang on in front of the British sled?
He's going backwards here, which is interesting because he's driving really well. That's beautiful through there. So let's see if that helps him climb closer to the green numbers.
Yeah, 6th best speed is quicker than Brad Hall was going down at the bottom.
This is a good drive for Mihai.
Yeah.
There's not a lot going on in terms of mistakes and everything, so pulls it back to 800s there. But I wonder when we see these the replay pictures, I wonder where we can see where maybe he just lost a little heat.
I wonder how much the ice temperature has changed and how the conditions are changing over the 2 hours of this contest, because that can have an effect as well. If the track is starting to frost or not, we'll have to see what happens with our top 3 or 4, if they go any quicker or not.
But again, you can see in this picture that wind, that blowing is not there now.
Yeah. No, the air is clear, whereas it was... and you've seen a few times sleds coming through the chicane through a snowstorm as it's blowing through the shades.
Yeah, tap, little check steer, but nothing too glaring. He was lovely through here.
Yep. He has got good hands. He really feels the ice. All right, Gilgamesh on the left, Mihai Tentia on the right-hand side for Romania, and they are in the top 10. Ahead of them, Cedric Folidor and Kantar Giard. And Folidor, 28th at the start, these duo, 5:34.
I'll tell you what, Cedi absolutely flew in that first heat, didn't he? He really put the cat amongst the pigeons here. So let's see what Quentin filling in for the unwell Luca Rolli. Get well soon, Luca. 5:34. So hold the start.
Before, 18th best start in the field so far. And they are the 19th sled.
So he's quite a deficit there already. So we'll see if he drives us back. He needs to be really, really good down here. That's going the wrong way for him, though.
Yeah. Third best speed is encouraging. So he might limit the damage to Brad Hall. Jeff Gobwa 400s back. Mihai Centeia 800s back. He's going to be first or fourth.
Just
it's not going to be first, is it?
No, it's a few little mistakes. You just see little skids out the tail of the sled there.
And Jacobs Canada 2900s back. He might drop to fifth. He's not got much speed on board. Fourth or fifth of the line. Fourth, just. Okay, so 56.11. Brad Hall and Taylor Lawrence move up another spot. Now, they're moving up the order. It's not necessarily closing the time deficit to the leaders, but they are further up the order. And actually, in the men's skeleton, Matt Weston beat Marcus Wyatt to the silver medal. Marcus in silver, Matt in gold by 1.9 seconds. You still get a silver medal if you're 2 seconds back.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't fight for the gold, but the medal is the medal, so...
Well, yeah, you fight for where you are, right?
Yeah,
And
time is important.
Grow.
Time is important, but track position in the standings is importanter.
Is much more better. Right?
And Cedric drops 3 spots to 4th place, and that will still see him in the top 10 because we have 6 fastest sleds to go, and then the rest of the field. And Kim Jin-soo, I mean, what a debut World Cup season this young man has had. Former brakeman turned driver. This year, his first in the World Cup, and he has been absolutely slaying it.
And very wonderful wordplay. And you know what? The boys have been pushing well. Yeah. They've been pushing phenomenally. So we've got 5:17. Now the great getaway. They're holding on to this. They're, 5:17 in the first, 5:17 in the second. See how manages out 2, keeps it square.
Started driving after the 22 games, so this is the end of his second full season.
Nearly quarter of a second up already. So he would need an absolute howler through the Devil's Highway or through our sort of other danger spots. And he's maintained the time here. So
second best speed. He's aiming top 5. He's got big ambitions, I think, and this is a really nice looking run. Couple of little errors, nothing catastrophic. Ooh. Skids the chicane.
Skids there. Let's see what happens. This
is going to suck the speed out of the sleds. It might be a few hundreds. Could be down to single digits. He should have the lead over Brad Hall, and it's a 10th. Well, Brad came down 55.88. That's a 55.92. So the gap has come back down. 1400s down to a 10th of a second. I'm loving the Korean tiger on the side of the sled. The other sled, it's red and blue. This one, black and white. Same Siberian tiger, I guess.
So yeah, another good run.
Yeah.
From Jin-soo, and great pushing. These guys are doing so well. They're going to be ones to watch in the 4-man as well, because in, I think it was the last World Cup in Lillehammer, the 4-man team suddenly went bam.
Yeah.
Here's a top-ranked push in the 4-man as well. Thank you very much. So really good to watch these guys doing so well. Flying the flag for South Korea in the absence of one now. And
again, you see the movement of the bodies in the sled, and this is the short, light sled. Getting a 4-man down there, it is like trying to get a camel through the eye of a needle. Kim Lees from Hall and Gabwa. We have our fastest 5 sleds to go, and they'll be followed on by the rest of the field. We should have 31 in this second heat. So Michi Vogt in 5th position with Andreas Haas, 10th best start, and that reflects largely Mickey's recovery still from injury, but the 5th best drive.
Yeah, and a 5:21 getaway. That's a great getaway for the boys. 4th fastest at this point, 200ths of what they did in the first push. So, he's...
Well, he gave away a 10th to Friedrich at the start and came down 7/10 back. So it wasn't all start deficit, but he had a good drive and best speed so far.
Yeah, Mickey drives Placid so well. And a couple of years ago, when we won our first gold medal here, Mickey was the last guy we were looking at. And they had that loading mishap, and that was the only reason, really, that they didn't challenge us more for the gold medal at that point. So Mickey can drive this track so well. And again, only a 10th here, though, too.
He's bringing it out, but he was only 100th up for half the run. Second best speed.
Oh, wow, 2/10. Look at this.
Yeah, now he's really multiplying it, and this is where he's going to make his speed at the bottom. 4/10 up. 55.54. That is a massive run.
Now that's going to give something for Frank to think about. Oh, no. Frank is quite... No, there's quite a gap between the two of them. But even so, I mean, if you're going to push for a fourth spot, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, half a second behind Frank Del Duca after the first heat. But if he can take half a second out in one run...
That's a massive chunk, isn't it?
That's a massive
That's a great
chunk,
job,
yeah.
both of them. Good pushing, good driving. There we go.
Almost nobody has been within 3/10 of their first run. Brad got close, a 52 to an 88, so 3600s back. Mickey had a 36 and a 54. That's 1800 slower than his first heat. That's a really good second run.
Yeah, good.
They are not as quick. Peter there at the back, going, get out of the way to the guys who are sweeping. Peter Fisher, who's officiating here. So 4 to go.
So we'll see hopefully another big push from these guys. A 5:15 in the first push. Chuck Volker on the back there he's such a talent.
And at the back in the beanie you see Mark Vandenberg. He's the man who designs and builds these sleds in the workshop here at the track.
So here we go. 5:11.
Oh,
How about
big
that?
start. Fastest of the competition so far.
Massive push. Great job, Chuck. And Frank. You did a little bit there, Frank.
100%. Everybody else has only been in the teens. They're the first to get below a teen. 5600s up. Best speed of all, 91 kilometers an hour.
I tell you, he's going to give the Germans something to think about. This is
Del Duca shooting
excellent.
for a medal. Third best speed, but still 6/10 up.
On home ice, Frankie's having an absolute stormer.
Yeah.
The boys have... Well, you know, Frankie's getting all this credit, okay? Chuck, you're responsible for that push. 6/10.
Beautiful. Shoots the chicane. 131.
Come on, Frank.
82 miles an hour. Finally, somebody quicker than Ensign Pindalati. 6600s up. He's going to lead by nearly 3/4 of a second.
That is a
55.35.
Yeah, look at that. They know.
And still
Great job,
4,500 slower than his first heat. So that puts Mickey Vogt into sharp focus. Not 45, but 3,600 slower than his first heat. That was a good run, though, from Del Duca. And that is definitely going to have the Germans watching the Americans very closely.
Yeah, look at these two are paired up so well. I think there was probably great synchronicity in the pushing there, like the way their legs are hitting the floor. 5:11 is such a good getaway.
Yeah.
I'd expect the Germans to maybe then be dipping into the O's here, but that is a hell of a push from Chuck.
Yeah.
And what a drive from Frankie. Great job, boys.
Thank you, Advance into Bowtech. Thank you.
Yeah, you deserve that, mate. Well done.
All right, here we go. Fastest three sleds. First up, in third place, Adam Amor and Benedict Hertel.
Here we go.
Fastest start so far with a 5:12. Let's see how Benny responds on the back of this sled.
Hard to predict. I want to say, I feel like I want to say an 08, but I also don't want to disrespect what Chuck and Frank have just done. So
Exactly.
10, there you go. So the Americans are flying.
Yeah. All right, so his advantage was exactly 1/10 of a second over Frank Del Duca. Any more or any less would give us an absolute benchmark of how they're performing. He's still 1/10 up. They started quicker, but he's still only 1/10 up. That's his first heat advantage.
Okay, number one speed now.
Yep.
Starting to creep the advantage. Adam actually, as I said, drove, I think, largely was the best out of the Germans in the first heat, so 1500s.
But gets a tap and a skid. Top speed so far. He's added just 500ths to his advantage over Frank Del Duca. It is still very much game on. 1700s, 55.28. So he found a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a great run from Adam there, because Frankie absolutely applied the pressure. And Adam's held his own really, really well. You know, Adam's still relatively inexperienced. You know,
Yes.
Adam's still relatively
Yeah, 100%.
new to the game here.
It's
But
only his third World Cup season.
a really talented kid.
As you said, this year interrupted by a series of crashes in Sigulda. He just couldn't get it and made the same mistake every time. Bang, bang, bang. And eventually didn't do the second heat in in day two. Coaches had seen enough.
Yeah, it's a good ride from Adam there. Good pushing, 5'10", but again, credit where credit's due for Big Chuck there, 5'11".
And just 23, you know, when Hansi Lochner retires and when Francesco Friedrich retires, Adam Amor is still going to be slaying it.
Oh,
so
yeah, you can be right.
he's going to be the guy they're chasing. But for now, Johannes Lochner and Georg Fleischhauer are in second position, 600s ahead of Adam Amor and a 10th off the lead. So this is where our overnight battle for the podium continues.
Now again, expect to see a big push here from the boys. These guys, just like Friedrich, who's coming after, they know how to respond. So everyone's going to go into the O's. 0.5. That's more like it. That is more like it from these guys.
Well, that's an enormous difference to 5.14 in the first heat.
He's taking a 10th off at the start. It's ridiculous.
And they were the second sled out, so they had ideal conditions in theory. 5.05 start, 1100s up on Amor at the start to 1800s already. And if he's a little tidier, then he could really start to stretch his legs away. Best speed of all.
He's flying it. That is really going to give something for Alex and Friedrich to think about in the start there. 5.05 is extraordinary. Put 500s on Adam and Benny, you know, two of the best pushers in the field. And that is stunning.
Beautiful chicane. Top speed, 82.4 miles an hour.
And this is why it's so difficult, even within the German program, to make a dent in the top two here, because they just do this.
Yeah.
They put an even bigger start and an even bigger drive.
55.15, fastest run of the competition in this second heat.
All right, let's see what Friedrich's got in the tank.
At the bottom, lost a little bit of ground back to Adam Amor, so he's gone from a 10th up, or 900s up to 1900s up, but he was 2200s up, or 2100s up, and started to go away. Lost a little bit down below the chicane, but it wasn't all plain sailing at the start. So watch the push bar. These lock in place on a tiny little pin, and often when you vault on it, either it collapses or it decides not to come in. It looked okay.
They're good then. And George as well is one of the best people to watch as a two-man brakeman loading into the sled. For a guy who's like 6'5", he drops in like he's 4'5".
Yeah.
You know, he's
6'5" in all directions as well. So it's not like you're getting a thin 6'5" into the sled. Look how wide those shoulders are. He's one of those guys that has to get in one shoulder at a time.
Yeah. Now, okay, so a 5.05 from Hansi. This is Friedrich will be absolutely gassing the start here. It's going to go close. 5.09.
All right,
there we go.
Quicker than Adam Amor, quicker than Frank Del Duca, but loses 4 of his 1000s advantage at the start to Johannes Lochner. Game on, and a little untidy 2-3.
Out of 4 into the Devil's Highway. Only 800s advantage, so 5th speed.
Only the 5th best speed. Only 800s up. Now Lochner, below the Devil's Highway, was flying. Friedrich back on track, 900s and better speed than Lochner.
Yeah, he took a 100th to the good there, from 8 to 9. Can he? 1200s, here we go. This is he's pulling away now.
Yeah, gets a decent chicane. 134 kilometers an hour, 83.3 miles an hour. And 1300s should become 2/10 of the line. He was really quick. 1400s, 55.11. So that was only 400s quicker than Hansi on that run. A 10th faster in the first heat, 400s in the second. Alex Schüller,
he's shaking his head.
If he shakes his head much more, it's going to fall off.
Maybe he knows. Maybe he felt something wasn't quite right in the start. Because normally if you're coming through with number 1, you tend not to shake your head.
Yeah.
So maybe Alex felt something, but...
Well, you tend not to shake your head no matter what your driver's done, because your driver is your driver. So he'll be thinking about something at the start. Maybe his foot slipped on the block.
Yeah, I wonder.
Do you know what? You know, he loves to win. Everybody loves to win. He loves when the racing is tight. He wants to be racing Hansi and Adam and Frank and Mickey Vogt and Brad Hall and Jeff Garbois. Bring them on. The tighter the race is, the more he likes it. Genuinely, win, lose or draw. But it is Friedrich who will be our overnight leader, so let's see what the rest of our field can produce. Our World Championship rookie Gustavo dos Santos Ferreira and his brakeman Rafael Souza da Silva, also new to the World Championships for Brazil, the second of our Brazilian sleds. Had a good start. Greg Jacket, 5:29, 18th best in the field.
29, not too shabby, and 28, they improve. So, as you said, if Edson did have a word with them saying, you know, you're 20 years younger than us, maybe push a bit faster, they have. So, good job from the guys there. And great to see another young, you know, minor nation pilot coming through, you know, working with someone like Edson Minderlat. He's been around for such a long time, such a font of knowledge for these guys. And hopefully get them to a stage where they're not a minor nation who's competing at the bottom end of the field, who can actually start making the march up and hopefully believe that they can take those steps up. There's great athletes in Brazil. There's great 100%. Athletes who come into this sport.
And the exposure that the sport is going to get in Brazil from the live coverage over this World Championships fortnight is really going to light
beautiful through there. Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, really nice stuff. Good lines, decent speed. And for a young pilot to come into the World Championships sort of unheralded anywhere, not seen on TV, even in the World Cup before, it is a big step to be following out of the dressing room behind a man whose name you've only ever heard, Francesco Friedrich. That's quite a daunting moment, I think, probably.
Definitely. But you know what, they are... It's not a lot to pick apart. There'll be minor mistakes and stuff down the track, but you know they're doing all right.
Hey, listen, 26 sleds on, 200's quicker than Cyrus Gray of Canada, and quicker than Adam Edelman, and quicker than Mate Berhenek. So that's a decent run.
Yeah, great job.
Decent run from the young Brazilians. We see them again tomorrow morning. They're loving life, aren't they? So too the Aussies. This is the first of our two Aussie teams, Rhys Peters and Ben Forst. Again, World Championship rookies. Now, there's something going on here. We've got Sydney siders and athletes from the God Zone in the same sled, and you should never, it's like oil and water, you should never mix the two.
No, absolutely.
Never have Queenslanders and anybody from New South Wales in the same set. It should almost be a state of origin battle. You should have one that's maroon and one that's blue. But there we go. That's for another day. 5:42 start, 26th in the field. They started 5:43 in the first heat, so they're keeping their speed up at the start. And again, for these crews, really limited experience. Just a handful of races across both Aussie sleds. And so, yeah, coming into the World Championships, the opportunity to do it on a track that you know just has to be taken.
Definitely. And we said that these are guys who are just banking experience here, banking major champs experience, training and competing and warming up around athletes. You know, what I hope they're doing is observing people like Schuller and Friedrich and Taylor, watching how they do things, watching how they train. Because it's not like these guys can't run or can't lift and stuff. They're good athletes. But they've got to learn how to take all of that and apply it to a sled.
And when you're in a small nation and you're trying to educate yourselves, it's looking at the best that gives you an indication of where you should be going and how you go about things. And yeah, you need that information. And when you're all new, I mean, the Brazilians, the young Brazilians, they've got Edson and Edson Martins who've got that knowledge, who've been around 3-4 Olympic cycles. They know everything and how you do it. Whereas we've got two brand new crews like the Aussies. Okay, you've got an experienced coach, but on the other hand, that's where the experience ends. So unless he tells you, you're making it up as you go along. Yeah,
absolutely. And you can see here where these guys are so green, you know, the mistakes they're making, the skids they're getting, that only comes with time and experience. You've got to learn how to rectify those mistakes and what it feels like in a corner if you're about to be set into a skid, if you're about to, you know, suffer something like that. So all a massive learning experience.
100%, and you only learn by doing it. There's no sim. You can't sit on the sim all summer and learn how to drive. You've got to do it on the ice. And they're ahead of a much more experienced slider, Jakub Prochaska, no older than them, but he has got a lot more ice miles under his belt. However, not so many here in Lake Placid, and he was 28th after the first of our 4 heats. 900s behind Rhys Peters of Australia. And again, for all of these newer drivers, you're not judging yourself, or you shouldn't be, against Francesco Friedrich. You should be judging yourself against yourself, because that's the only way you're going to measure your progress.
Definitely. They've dropped from a 530 to a 539 here, so they've dropped 900s in the start, which is definitely not ideal. So that speed is going to be out of the sled a little bit. And Joachim was pretty rocky, pretty wild. Through an already wild track. It's a bit nicer through that transition 8 and 9. Into 10. Landed on the wrong side there.
Yeah, comes down a little early out of shady. Always working to correct your mistakes rather than trying to...
Big skid into the chicane. This is... Let's keep it straight through here. Good, he should be fine through 18-19. So the boys...
Get it down and done. Okay, little wild. Tap, tap and skidding uphill across the line. 57.65. Dominic Dvorak on the left looking pretty implacable, but you know, it was ugly, but he got it down without using the helmets, and actually in that learning process, that is the key element. You've got to make the mistakes to find out how they happen.
Yeah, we can just see, look at the back end just skidding around there. That's pushing him off. Big tap before the next corner. Like, yeah, that wouldn't have been big skid into the chicane as well. So there's just any opportunities for speed here are just being taken away. So Dominic did not do too enthused with the drive. So it'll be interesting to know what the coach-athlete debrief is on this one.
Well, the great thing here, they've got a brand new 4K security camera system, so you can follow everything. They'll have video of every inch of the course, and they can look at it again. Now then, Chris Horn, Josh Williamson, 5th place on the splits when they crashed down in the heart. So this is to try and drive their way back into the top 20.
Yeah, so we should see another great shove here in the teens. I mean, suffering a crash and then get back up to the top. You know, these guys are hard as nails. 5-12!
Wow.
Oh, wow. Only 100 from Frankie and Chuck.
Yeah.
Great push.
Going to show this track what it's all about. Little skid there, 2 to 3. Gets the square tap out to 4. Little nudge away into 4.
All right, let's see what he can do here. So
the best speed. Well, we know that he's got the speed to be top 5. He showed that until the heart.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that he nearly crashed everywhere. Best speed of all, faster than Friedrich. Now, this is really, really good news, not just for Chris Horn, but also for the US sled program. These new sleds are absolutely flying here.
Ooh,
little nudge
nearly
away.
did it again.
Hang on there. 24th place on the splits. How far does he move up? How close to the top 20?
Hey, 22nd.
5th fastest run. And that shows that the first heat was not a crash looking for somewhere to happen. He had it on merit. 5th fastest in his crash in the first heat. 5th fastest at the bottom in the second. That is how you do it. That is how you get back on the horse that threw you.
And he's hundredths away from the top 20.
And they ripped a start off the top. That's brilliant stuff. That is brilliant stuff.
Top 5 start after getting, but these guys are tough as nails. I'm really happy for Josh. Josh has been just through the mill with his injuries, and this is one of the best athletes in the field, like bar none. Internationally, one of the best athletes, and he's been working with Eric Franke, you know, former German Olympic silver medalist, who's become a fantastic coach, and has been a real good fit for Josh.
And don't forget, when we were here 2 years ago, that man on the left, Chris Horn, walked away with the money for the 2-man and 4-man gold in the Push Worlds.
That's right. Yeah,
and he was headed off on holiday, so he got some spending money for his holiday. Cam Scott and Patrick Castelli now for Australia, the second of our Aussie duos, the 27-year-old Sydney-sider, the driver. Patrick Castelli from Brisbane in Queensland in only his 4th ever bobsleigh 2-man race.
Yeah, so still some real green athletes here. They managed to hold the start. They're 49 in the first heat, 49 in this heat.
This is Cam's 15th race, the driver. His brakeman's 4th. So,
yeah, it's just some real
in at the deep end, off the high board.
Yeah, real lack of experience here. So these races are massive, as we said with their teammates. You know, observing and working around world-class athletes, working around, seeing the speed that they move at, seeing how they warm up, seeing how they prepare.
Yeah.
Learning how to manage your mistakes in the track for the pilot. Like this is just a wonderful experience for these boys.
And
nicely done.
And if you ask, all the top drivers will tell you, all of the top athletes will talk to you and tell you they want the sport to get better. Across the line, 57.44, so they're done and down. They have completed the first day of the World Championships.
That's good, man. And we want more nations to compete against. We want more people in the field.
100%.
You know, we don't want to be in fields of 12 and 13 and things like that. We need more and more people coming into it. We need more and more people to see that this is a viable option to come into, bring in even higher caliber levels of athletes who will raise their standard. You know, like it's really, really crucial that the guys, they see with these smaller nations, eyes on, there's visibility, and they're competing. And speaking of that, you know, we've got
100%.
the Thai team coming next, which is another example of that.
Yeah. Plus, if you're a British sportsman and you're not beating the Aussies, are you really competing at all? Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of history there. Yeah, the Aussies, proper enthusiasts, those guys. And these two as well, in fact, all the Thai team, they're just so keen and enthusiastic. Kitamat Palakai, the driver, Sitifon, Domprati, the brakeman, and the driver, as we said in the first heat, enormously experienced for a 17-year-old. 17-year-old former roller skier. He's done 8 two-man races. His first was in November last year. His brakeman is a whole 24 years old. He's a policeman in Bangkok and a 100, 200, 4x1 sprinter. He too has done 4 two-man races. But look at that load.
Yeah,
that was
good.
Nice. That doesn't look like an amateur getting in the sled.
Yeah, the start's gone back a little bit, but I think that these are quite slight guys as well, which means that sled will probably weigh a ton. I can relate to that because they're not slow. We've got a 10.6 car on the back, so we've got some speed in the legs, speed in the sled, and then you've got a 17-year-old on the pilot handle.
Yeah.
You know, he's still growing. He's still
100%.
He's got years of maturation. Yeah, and this is a mature muscle sport. You know, you're shifted at a 200-kilo object as fast as possible for 5 seconds. You know, it's you'd be hard pushed to find a youngster who can do that to the level of the Germans and the rest of the field. So really good experience for these guys. Nice through the chicane.
And what a nice looking run. What a nice looking run. You know, for a 17-year-old who's got race experience you can almost literally count on the fingers of 2 hands, he's putting down a really nice run. So he may not have fattest runners on, he may not have the fastest setup, but this is about experience, and you don't get it if you're upside down. So slightly narrower runners giving him the control to build the confidence.
That's a really good point.
Do you know, it's exactly what they've been doing with the young Korean drivers for the last couple of years. Don't throw them off the deep end. Build the experience, and that's exactly what these young athletes need.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Martin, because obviously the in vogue thing now for runners is thicker the runner, the faster you go, right? Yeah. So, but they are incredibly difficult then to control. So, yeah, that'd be absolutely accounting for why there's also not so much speed in the track, but they are.
And what are they going to learn if you put them on fat runners and they crash? They're going to learn that crashes hurt. Well, you know, once you've done it once, you know that. Confidence and experience, that's what you have to build in those crews.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got here. You know, Francesco Friedrich, hugely experienced, hugely confident. And with that comes speed. With Alex Schiller, quick starts, and 2 good runs. Not sure quite what Schiller was shaking his head about. We might have to catch up with him later and find out whether there was a little slip off the block from his spikes at the beginning. We've seen a couple of those in the skeleton race, but they have the lead. 1400s, it's not a lifetime, it's 1 little error ahead of Johannes Lochner. Then Adam Amor and Frank Del Duca, Mickey Vogt and Kim Jin Soo, a 10th ahead of Brad Hall, with Jeff Gadbois accelerating up the top 10. He's in 8th place ahead of Mihai Tentea and Cedric Follador. Taylor Austin of Canada in 12th place. That's a good first day for the Canadians, 12th and 15th. Edson Bindalati tied for 19th place with Alex Virginer, and then knocking on the door of the top 20 in 22nd, Chris Horn and Josh Williamson. 5th fastest run in that second heat, and they might end up in the top 15 by the end of heat 3, and who knows at the end of heat 4. 31 sleds completing the second heat, and they will all turn around and have a bit of a rub down and get ready for our action tomorrow, heats 3 and 4 of the 2-man worlds. But before that, this afternoon, we'll have a little bit of lunch and get ready for the Monobob, the women's mono competition, and that will be coming up to you live both heats this afternoon. We start at 1400 local, which is 1900 Greenwich Mean Time for the first heat of the mono. Till then, from Greg Cackett, me, Martin Haven, and the whole crew here in Lake Placid, thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon. Only the 5th.
1, 2. Hey, hey, hey. 1. In 2, 1, 2. Kunnen we beginnen wanneer je wil?
Okay.
Adam Amour, 3rd place after 2 1s. Are you happy with that?
Ja, wir sind sehr zufrieden. Es war